there's been some slack. Chris from Senate John Boats calls them scooters. I've had a lot of scooters come forward lately. I posted my little Yak Killer reel on Instagram and on TikTok saying, we can't match it. This thing is too heavy. It's gonna sink. The one wave gets taken over it. It's not light enough to transport. You can't haul it to your truck. You can't haul it to the trail. You can't haul it using anything off the ramp. They say this boat here is useless without a trailer. So, I mean, I'd be a real jerk if I didn't at least demonstrate it to you now what it's capable of. So let's just get onto it. Right to get this little bed extender, just put in the hitch, little 90-degree T-bar that sits under there, and I'll strap it. This is the deck, this is it, this is all of it. I towed it on that like nothing. And we'll slide right off. What are we doing here, man? What is all this? Today we're going to be tracing out our terminal panels, meaning our stationary panels that are going to be at each corner of the boat that are just going to be static, no hatches. And we're going to be doing them out of Coosa board. There are many options out there for synthetic board, including PVC board, but we have found Coosa to be the best. It's actually much better when it's fiberglass, but right now we're going to be using it standalone as is with some resin coated over it. What we use to template this is Duralar or Voilar, whatever they call it, but this is plastic, non-crinkling stuff that makes perfect templates. You can see right through it and trace, and so these templates were really easy. Once we cut them out, after tracing them onside the boat, we just put them onto the Coosa board and went to cutting. The Coosa board cuts very easily, cuts like butter. Cuts a lot better and a lot straighter than, say, wood. But it's also full of fiberglass, so you need to be wearing a mask, and you need to be ready to clean up everything, and just be careful, because you'll start itching all over. Go. Yeah, that was a left. That was a one cut. I don't have to do anything else to it. That was dope. There's a nice even thickness here. But that's half-inch Coosa. We need it to be 3/4 inch thick, but I don't want all the weight of a 3/4 inch thick piece of board, even though the Coosa is lighter than wood. So what we're going to be doing is cutting strips to make a lip. And we've been doing this in the Tiny Boat Nation since for like ever. It works really good. This is 1/4 inch hardwood plywood. You use 1/4 or 3/16. It's in a respectful margin of error. So here we go, stapling it. The Coosa does not fasten the way wood does, where a staple or a screw will just go right in there and sit nice. So you got to put extra staples, and later on we have to resin. Coosa is at its best when you resin coat or fiberglass it. We are preserving the bottoms and also slicking the tops with West Marine 105 marine resin with a fast cure. Plus it's also 1,000,000 degrees, so that means the stuff's really going to cure very fast. Much faster than we actually like. But what we will get out of this, you're asking, why are you preserving Coosa? I'm not necessarily preserving Coosa because it is synthetic, it has a 2% water absorption. It's really good stuff, but it's really nice in terms of stuff that you can stick on top of it when you put a resin coat over it. Something different about it, like it clears almost like glass. And actually, if I had a little glue trowel, this would work a lot better. I'm using this popsicle stick, and that's fail. I don't get the most even deal here out of it, and I start to actually kind of start wasting glue to try and even it out, because I don't want huge gross holes or spots in it. But I finally start to kind of get a groove with it, and then I get smart and I use a brush underneath. But I should have used a brush on top, honestly. But the best way to use it on top is with a little glue trowel, which will spread that resin over evenly, and you'll have a nice even glass thickness. Because the marine resin, it makes the life of the wood, increases the life of the wood like dramatically. Ain't playing around. I gotta let that stuff dry. Nope. Off to West Marine I go. I'm getting the slow cure stuff this time. Whatever this is, man. Whatever. Was not messing around there. That dried in like no time. I went down with a belt sander and then again with this one, so it didn't get down too deep. But it's nice and flat and smooth, and that's a nice, smooth, stickable surface that the turf will go right onto. Because in the JonYak kit, we send you pieces for Gen X hatches for bigger hatches. But this being my boat, I realize I can take risks. And if they fail, then it's on me. But I think after going down in Georgia and grinding with those boys for a little bit and seeing some ideas, I think with the soft touch plus the grip on the outside, which I have ordered, and the soft touch plus the door edge guard on top of each other will keep the aluminum from sliding under peer pressure, buckling, and therefore warping like some of my other hatches did in my boat. I think they'll work. These are not part of the JonYak kit. I decided to go rogue. That's all I have to do. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a free bird. I do weird things. Plus, we can never hope to ship you anything like this long anyways. We're gonna try full micro hatches. We're gonna do only one Gen X hatch up here in the very front, and that's because we're gonna be here the bulk majority of the time sitting. And so at that point in time, it makes more sense. But the rest of these, Gen 7. Alright, so what we're doing here is measuring out a 90-degree angle, just kind of estimating it. You have to leave a little bit of a gap in the middle. So it's a 90-degree with like a flat gap right there where the center line is. You do that so when you use these tin snips to cut it out, which are like 20 bucks at Lowe's, and you can use other saws, but it's just much more complicated. And the 1/16 inch angle is thin enough to be cut with these. And so what I do is I make a bunch of these little 90-degree slits with a little gap in the middle, and you know, I pull this off with some pliers, and then I start to do the bending with the pliers right at an even 90 degrees. And you can tweak it a little bit, but you really want these to be precise, because if you don't get it precise, you screw the whole thing up. You have to go to the hardware store to buy more aluminum. Just luck. Otherwise, I got an extra piece just in case I completely screwed this up. It happens a lot more than you think. It turns out that I got it, I think. I did. That was just what I need, that little extra piece. Missing a big jack gap there, but that's fine. We can deal with that. We can even put pieces in here to reinforce that. 1/8 inch gap. This is a 1/8 inch piece of flat bar. I'm using it to make sure everything's spaced. You need a 1/8 inch gap for everything to close pretty seamlessly. 1/4, some people prefer. I like the tighter gap because it looks better on the turf. But some people will say, no, it's not the way. Whatever. Right. So I oddly chose to make the lockers first because I felt without making the lockers first, all my other hatches risked becoming improportionate or something going wrong with them. So this was the most awkward one because it had that slant in the back. It has that odd triangular slant to it because this locker this side is supposed to be able to hold 8-foot rods. You would then set these against the piano hinges that we give you in the kit, or you can just buy these piano hinges directly from us. We installed these way earlier, so if you're following the series, you know exactly what we did here. But now we're going to be riveting this frame to it. Now, if I'd have thought a little bit farther ahead, I would use my Clayco fasteners because they would have fit inside of the hinge, and we still would have been able to shut this and get an accurate measurement. So we just used rivets, which is stupid. But I needed it to close, and I needed it to be a certain way. That way I could trace it out and then, you know, make an actual hatch. I'd have to trace out the aluminum now. We're going to use a .063 aluminum sheet, and we're going to trace this with clear Duralar. We'll show you now how to do this, but this actually saved and made my process for decking this boat pretty seamless and way easier. Now, we've done it with cardboard, we've done it with construction paper, they all work, but I tell you, seeing directly through your hatch and being able to trace it is something else. Gives you a level of precision that you never really had. And if you get a little bit off, like right there, that wasn't my best shot right there. I quickly learned that you should just trace it right on the hatch instead of trying to cut directly. So I had a little bit of an overhang, but I just stretched it out, used an X-Acto knife to trim it up, and then I just did this. Make sure you label your Duralar though. Left, right, top, up, bottom, and then write that directly on your hatch, just like you did the Duralar. And then save those pieces later, because if you want to use them to template for turf, you can totally do that too. If you want to use them to send them off to somebody to get custom write a job, they're going to ask you to use Duralar and write it like that and give them exact measurements. And that's how you would get like a custom, you know, HydroTurf or, you know, marine mat deck. Same exact thing. Yeah, but we're using that not only to get the turf, because we will be using that later for turf, but we're using it to make our hatches, and it came out pretty seamlessly. So I did the whole thing again. We really had to focus on the sides though. That meant the big mega locker we had, plus the other left rod locker and the electric panel that immediately followed the rod locker. We had to get those done first. That way we can just lay the Duralar over the entire section. We can lay it over the entire sides, and we can just trace the inner core from top to bottom. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to just trace these out, make sure they're there, and then the middle core will be the easiest, which is really important because the middle core is the easiest to screw up. But first we have to take care of how to stabilize these hatches, because remember, this whole entire unit, the system, is 1/16 inch thick aluminum, and it's riveted, not welded, so we're at a disadvantage. That means we have to stiffen it up somehow. So we have these hatch handles on our site. They're fairly light, a little bit thicker than what we have here. They're out of, I think, 090 aluminum sheet bent, but they're meant to be low profile. They are meant to fit with a 3/4 inch tall lid, like so, and they are going to stabilize this entire locker. I cut this thing more or less the entire length of the locker. I secured it on both ends by pre-drilling holes, marked it, then flipped it, and then riveted all the way down the line and countersunk them and used countersink rivets. This is the first Gen 7 hatch I've done this big, so we're gonna have to test its strength. We're gonna test it here in a second. All right. So we'll be doing things to hide these rivet heads later. It's just we're gonna put this on this side to give me a little bit of leeway. Hopefully the boat doesn't tip. All right. Moment of truth. How is this gonna do? Yeah, there's a little bit of bend, but it's holding. It's not buckling. I mean, I wouldn't do jumping jacks on it. Definitely big hatch. I mean, that middle brace, super necessary, the hatch channel. Okay, so it's fine. All right, so now we have a flat platform to just completely put the Duralar right across the entire boat. Then we can tighten and make sure it doesn't sag in the middle. Then we can just trace all of our hatches out to a T. I mean, we're using the square ruler, using the meter stick, using whatever we need to, even a piece of, flat bar. But we're getting it done, and we're just gonna transfer these over after we cut them all out. We're gonna transfer them right to the aluminum sheet and just cut them out, and then we're gonna bend the angle to the hatch frame. That'll be the easiest way to not make sure we overextend or screw stuff up even more. I found that to be the more intelligent way versus how I started. So if you can do it this way first, just do it this way first. So far it's working. There's the back hatch. It's pretty important that you label your hatch from the top, which hatch it is, left, right, bottom, etc., all the corners. That way you don't do something odd and put the top on the bottom. The hatch won't come out right. I've done that. I've wasted entire hatches. It's a terrible feeling. You have like a good feeling inside. It's all cozy, and then you realize the hatch isn't right. So I'd spare anybody that. Just right over all your stuff, like so. There we go, boys. All right, once we are done tracing all of these panels up, you roll that Duralar back up and you stick it somewhere nice, like you store it at H&M Map. And then I'm just using a Harbor Freight Special, the Bauer metal shears, and that chopped them up pretty good. I just laid them right over the rest of the boat, made sure they seamed up where I wanted to seam. I had that 8-inch gap at least between all hatches, and then I just used that as a template to bend around all those frames. The JonYak kit includes these. You can get this kit right on our site. We deviated a lot from what we initially structured for the kit, but the kit should get you pretty far in terms of what you can do inside a little boat like this, as light as you can. We do include some Gen X. This is like a Gen 7 Gen X hybrid, so you can have more supportive hatches in your most crucial spots. All these are all Gen 7, everything. I'm not going to spend the majority of my time here on this part of the boat. Majority of my time in this boat will be spent in the front because I am primarily a bass fisherman, and therefore the butt seat area will be, instead of being framed with the angle, that angle like we did for the rest of this, to micro frame this all, we'll be using the Gen X frame, which is the tubing.
which is substantially stronger. I think even that twice as thick in a 1/8 inch form is still not as strong as a 1/16 inch tube. And we have ways to kind of join this all together pretty seamlessly. In the Gen X and in partially in the JonYak kit, you'll be sent these brackets.
The Gen X kit is what is on my personal boat and on my best 14-foot creation ever. And so many of my patrons and VIP channel members and pro staff have used this kit, and they come out with awesome creations. I think even better looking than mine in some cases. And I try to like bribe these people to like, I'll give them money, I'll give them store credit, I'll give them whatever they need. Just like get me footage so I can show, you know, how successful this kit is for you. But they're like too busy fishing and, you know, catching stuff, and they don't ever want to give me the footage. I don't know what to do. But if you guys have used one of our kits and you have a pretty successful venture and you made a pretty cool creation, we would love to see it, and we will definitely compensate you for it. The Gen X is our first really successful rivet together DIY platform where you can make an aluminum hatch that hides all the rivets. It's really seamless. It looks very professional when you're done. It is also extremely strong and rigid and inflexible. Like, it's really freaking awesome. It's just bigger, it's a little heavier than the Gen 7, and you can't microframe it. You have to have 1.5 inch angle minimum on the frame, and so you kind of need a wider platform. It's really good for 14-foot boats or really big 12-foot boats, even 16-foot boats, even though we start recommending Nate's dry hatches at that point. But the Gen X kit, man, I tell you, if you're somebody with high intelligence but not a whole lot of tools, you got a small garage like mine, and you have a creative mind that just chisels away like an artist chisels away at a rock and just comes out with like a statue, this kit is for you. I tell you, you will love it. Gen 7 though is definitely the lightest per capita. The hatches are obscenely light. Even with this hatch channel attached to the bottom of they're still the lightest hatches I've ever made, and they can be framed in. When you have a boat this small, inches matter. So 1.5 inch angle, I would not have been able to cram what I did. Honestly, it's only like a ½ inch on each part, but I swear that all adds up and it crams you in a boat with a bottom beam in a micro fit this small. I'm not creating this Yak Killer to target all kayaks. I'm targeting it towards these mega kayaks, these $5,000, 12 and 14 foot wannabe boats where they put in trolling motors, putting motorized pedals, they're putting all this stuff, spot lock, they have all these fishing gimmicks. It's time to implement our ideas. Stuff that we think will be successful and stuff that we'll be able to prove. This has been a long time coming, and now it's here. You know what the difference between tiny boats and kayaks are nowadays? Free thinking. No rigid and inflexible institutions cramming you down. This is only 12 feet long, 32 inches wide. A Hobie Pro Angler 12 or 14 is just as big as this, but I have 2 rod lockers. This is an actual legitimate 8-foot rod, 7.5 rods. They'll store 14 rods, over 20 tackle trays. I have 2 day boxes, 1 main battery hatch, a new electronics panel that'll hold all switches. I'll light this thing up like the 4th of July. I'll have my butt seat there and my terminal storage there. I'll store life jackets, I'll store anything, and I'll still be able to pick this thing up. I'll slide it. I'll load it in the back of my truck and I'll go into any kayak waters, no matter where it is. You guys had your run. You stayed soft. You didn't move forward like you should have. And now it's our turn. We're gonna take over this bitch.